Srimad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashman Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashman Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nugori Bharga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Padadashapana Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam Ramanandari Shri Gopal Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Braja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Parata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radhakund Shyamakund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Radha Damodar Ju ki jai. Shri Damodar Vrat ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrat Urja Vrat Niyam Seva ki jai. Urjeshwari Shrimati Radharani ki jai. Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam ki jai. Shri Satyavrat Muni ki jai. Shri Krishna Dvaipayan Veda Vyasdev ki jai. Shri Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Jiva Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai. Shri Param Gurudev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat Pranams. It's so strange. I set up a live event and it wouldn't let me go live there again. Anyhow, what to do? Can you hear me okay? Haribol? Let me just... Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen now so that you can see the book. So shall we sing? Maybe we sing Dāmodarāṣṭakam first. Oops, you can't see my screen yet. There. Okay, so maybe, we'll sing Dāmodarāṣṭakam first, and then that will give time for people to join in. Where is it? There. All right. Is that big enough? Maybe I'll see if I can make it bigger. There. There. Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupa Ala Sakunda Lam Gokule Prajamana Yashoda Viyoloka Ladavamanam Paramrishtam Atyantadrutabhopyam Orudantamohornitra Yugmamrijanta Karam Bhaja Yugmena Satankanetra Mohoswasakampa Trikankakanta Stita Graivadamo Dharam Bhakti Badam O Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupa Kundala Gokule Braja Manam Drik Salilabir Ananda Kunde Sagoshami Majantam Akyapayantam Tadiyeshita Gesho Bhakterjitatva Puna Prematastam Shatavriti Vande Nama Vishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Alasakundala Gokule Brajamanam Varam Deva Moksham Namokshavadimva Nachanya Vrineham Varesharapiham Idam te vapurnata Gopalabala Sada me manasyavi Rastam Vimana O Nama Vishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Lasat Kundala Gokule Braja Idang Timukam Bojam Avyakta Nilar Vritam Kundala Snigdarakta Ishtagopya Moshum Vittam Bimbarakta Dharani Manasya Virastam Balam Nakshala O Nama Vishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Lasa Kundalam Gokule Brajaman O Nama Devatam O Dharananta Vishnu Prasira Prabhuto Kachalapti Magnam Kripadishti Vishyati Dinam Patano Grihane Shama Magyame Dakshidesh O Nama Vishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Lasa Kundalam Gokule Brajaman O Kuberatmajo Pada Murtai Vayarvan Tayamachita Bhakti Bhaja Ketocha Tata Prema Bhakti Sakame Prayacha Namokshe Graho Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam Nama Vishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Lasa Kundalam Gokule Brajaman Namaste Studame Spuraditi Dame Tadyadarayata Vishwasadame Namaradhikaya Tadyapriyaya O Namaradhikaya Tadyapriyaya Namaradhikaya Tadyapriyaya Namaradhikaya Tadyapriyaya O Namo Nanta Devaya Devaya Namo Nande Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shri Dāmodarāṣṭakam ki Jai. Okay, 1 second. Just. All right. 1 second. All right, thank you so much for joining me again. I'm just checking on Facebook because I'm using a different program right now. I can't really see if I'm actually live everywhere, what's happening. Okay, I think it's working. Yes, looks like it's working. Okay, great. So now we are reading this, verse 2. Yesterday we read verse 1. I'll just read the translation so that we get the flow. Okay. And is the sound and everything okay? You guys can let me know. Actually, I'm going to turn on. Where is this? Haribol, Haribol. Seems like it's soft. Okay. Shoot. All right. I offer obeisances unto Sri Krishna, the possessor of all potencies, whose beautiful form is the entirety of concentrated existence, knowledge, and bliss. On his cheeks, makara-shaped earrings are swinging playfully. His infinite brilliance shines forth from his most splendid residence, the transcendental abode Sri Gokul. He was afraid of Mother Yashoda because he smashed the earthen pot of yogurt. When he saw her coming, he leapt down from the grinding mortar and ran away. Nevertheless, Mother Yashoda ultimately caught hold of him from behind, for she ran more swiftly than he did. Okay, now verse 2. Oops. Here we are. Rudantam muhurnetrayukmam mrijantam karam bhojayumena satam kanetram muhusvasakam patirekam kakanta stita graivadamo taram bhakti vardam. Seeing the stick in his mother's hand and fearful of being beaten, he is weeping incessantly and rubbing his eyes again and again with his 2 lotus-like hands. His eyes are extremely restless and filled with fear. He takes heavy breaths again and again that cause the pearls and other ornaments around his neck, which is marked by 3 gracefully curving lines, to tremble. O Damodar, you have been bound by your mother's Vatsalya Bhakti. I offer my obeisances unto that Damodar. So now the Digdarshini Tika by Srila Sanatana Goswami Pada. The excellence of Krishna's extraordinary Leela is depicted in this important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.11. Kritagasam prarudantam akshini kashantamanja mashini swapanina udvikshamanam bhaya vivalekshanam haste grihitva vishayantyavagurat. Mother Yashoda watched as her naughty child cried bitterly and rubbed his eyes with both his hands. The black ointment around his eyes mixed with his tears and spread everywhere. Seeing her son with his eyes full of fear at the sight of the stick she was brandishing, Mother Yashoda took him by the hand and began to gently reproach him in order to instill fear in him. In the stanza beginning with Rudantam, Sri Satyavrat Muni fully captured the meaning of this Bhagavatam verse. In following with the second half of the previous stanza, he continues to establish his worshipful Lord's supremacy through descriptions of his unique pastimes. Appreciating the same pastime that is described in the above verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, he spoke the present stanza thus. When he saw his mother holding a stick, he became apprehensive, fearing that she would surely beat him. Now he is hoping that by showing her how afraid he is, he can avoid being punished. So Rudantam, he cries bitterly, and Karam Bhoja Yugmena Netra Yugmam Mrajantam, he rubs his eyes again and again with both his lotus-like hands. That he just keeps rubbing his eyes with both of his hands is in keeping with the natural behavior of a child. This is the special characteristic of his Balya Lila, and it is one explanation of Karam Bhoja Yugmena Netra Yugma Mrajantam. But this phrase also indicates two alternative meanings. The first of these is that there are actual tears that instantly came to his eyes due to his fear. In order to make these tears fall from his eyes, he continuously rubs them with both of his hands. The second alternative meaning is that continuous streams of tears are already flowing from his eyes, so he rubs his eyes with both of his hands to wipe away the tears. I don't get the difference between them. The first of these is that there's actual tears that instantly came into his eyes due to his fear. In order to make these tears fall from his eyes, he continuously rubs them with both his hands. The second alternative meaning is that the continuous streams... Oh, these are two alternative meanings. And the first meaning, though, is that he rubs his eyes to make himself look like he's really afraid, right? Now he's hoping to show her... Oh, yeah. Now he is hoping that by showing her how afraid he is, he can avoid being punished. So he cries bitterly, and he rubs. So in this one, in the first meaning, he's faking it. He's just trying to make his mother feel bad, so that he doesn't have to get punished. And so he's like trying to force his eyes. And then the alternative is that he actually is really crying because he really is afraid. So one he's faking it, and one he's actually afraid. Okay. And one is okay. Whatever. The meaning of Satanka Netram is that even if his eyes are... the meaning of Satanka Netram is that if even his eyes are expressing that he is afraid of being punished, his mind must be overwhelmed with fear. Otherwise, it may be taken to mean he is casting his glance in all directions because he is greatly agitated by fear. His attempt to avoid being beaten by his mother is another of his unique confidential pastimes. And moreover, Muho Swasena, because of his continuous crying and constant heavy sobs, Kanta Stita Graivam, the pearl necklace and other ornaments around his neck, which is marked with 3 rekanka, 3 graceful lines like the ringed groves on a conch, are also trembling, kampat. Śrī Dāmodar, whose belly becomes bound by ropes, appeared thus. By this description, Sri Satyavrat Muni has captured the meaning of another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.14. Tvamatvatmajam avyaktam martyalingam adhoksajam gopikolu khale damna babanda prakritam yata. Just as an ordinary mother in this world may bind her mischievous son, so Mother Yashoda, simply considering Sri Krishna to be her son, tied him to the grinding water with a rope as if he were an ordinary child. The above... Where's the footnote? I didn't even notice there's a footnote. Huh. Anyhow. There it is. The above verse mentions that the rope was knotted both at his belly and at the grinding mortar. And there's a footnote. Mother Yashoda first tied one end of the rope around the heavy grinding mortar and then began to tie the other end around her child's belly in order to keep him securely bound. Thus the sage has revealed Sri Krishna's unique supremacy by describing his Bhakta Vashyata Vishesh, his special quality by which he allows his devotees to control him. Sri Satyavrat Muni says, Bhakti Badham. The meaning is Bhaktaiva Badham. Sri Krishna is only bound by bhakti and nothing else. In other words, it was not the strength of all the ropes that was able to bind him. Rather, he submitted to being bound on one hand because of the power of Sri Yashoda's bhakti for him in the form of motherly affection, and on the other hand, because of his own special quality of willingly being controlled by his bhaktas, like his mother, in the form of his bhakti to her, bhakti for her. So one was the power of Mother Yashoda's bhakti, her Vatsalya bhakti, and the other was because of his Bhakta Vashyata, right? Yeah. That is why, even when Mother Yashoda tied all the ropes she had gathered together, she still failed to bind him. There always remained an inexplicable there always remains an inexplicable gap of 2 fingers. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-15-17. Tadama padyamanasya svarbhakasya kritagasa dvangulo nam abhutena sandadena gopika. When Mother Yashoda tried to bind her mischievous child, the rope was 2 fingers too short, so she added another rope to it. Yadasit tarapi nyunam tenanyad api sandade tarapi dvangulam nyunam yadyadadatta bandhanam. However, that also was 2 fingers short. In this way, each and every time she tried on another rope, it was always 2 fingers short. Evam sageha damani yashoda sandadatyapi. Although she had tied together all the ropes in her home, Mother Yashoda could not bind Krishna. Seeing this, the gopis started giggling. Utterly perplexed, she also began to laugh. The other reason that his belly became bound with rope, his Damodaratva, that's so funny, is that Bhakti Badam. He is completely enchanted exclusively by the bhakti of his devotees. Wow, he's completely exclusively. The Damodaratva, that means literally, that means his Dhamma means rope, and Udara means belly, and Tva means ness. So his belly boundedness. So the other reason that his belly became bound with rope, the other reason of his belly boundedness is that Bhakta Padam, he is completely enchanted exclusively by the bhakti of his devotees. This meaning actually leads to the previous one, that he becomes bound because of his Bhakta Vashyata, his willingness to be controlled by his devotees. In regard to this, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-18-21 further states, Samatu Svinagatraya Visrasta Kabarasraja Drishtva Parishramam Krishna Kripayasit Swabandhane. She had become exhausted by tying so many ropes together, and her body had become covered with perspiration. The flowers woven into her hair had fallen from her loosened braid, and had scattered here and there. Seeing his mother's fatigue and feeling compassionate, little Krishna then allowed his mother to bind him. Evam sandarshita hyanga harina bhaktavashyata svavashenapi krishnena yasenedam seshwaram vashe. O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe, along with the powerful demigods who control it, is completely under the control of the supremely independent personality of Godhead, Sri Hari. Yet, he has allowed himself to be bound in order to show that he is willingly controlled by his devotees. Nemam virinchodcha na bhavo na shirapyanga samshaya prasadam lebhire gopi yattat prapya vimuktidat. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who bestows salvation upon all, never showed Lord Brahma, Maheshwar, Shiva, or even his eternal consort Lakshmi Devi, who is half of his body, the kindness he showed this gopi, Yashoda. Nayam sukapo bhagavan, dehinam gopika sutta, jnaninam chatma bhutanam yata bhakti matam iha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the son of a gopi, Gopika Sutta, is not at all easy to attain for the Ashtanga yogis who identify themselves with the body and who perform severe austerities. Nor is he easy to attain for self-realized jnanis who are absorbed in all-pervading, non-dual knowledge. But these loving associates who are absorbed in serving him, simply considering him to be the darling son of a gopi, have easily attained him. In other words, although the ascetics and impersonalists undergo great trouble, instead of attaining the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, they merely attain an incomplete or partial expansion of him. These verses have conveyed the aforementioned reason for being bound. And there's a footnote here. The reason is that Sri Krishna is bound due to his quality of Bhakta Vashyata. Later in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna declares, Devarshi me priyatamo yadimo dhana datmajo tat tata sadhayishyami yargitam tan mahatmana. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10-25. Devarshi Narad is my dear devotee. Therefore, even though these two brothers, the sons of the most wealthy demigod Kuvera, had no devotion for me, still I must fulfill Sri Narad's words by appearing directly before them and granting them my devotional service. The deep meaning of this statement spoken by Sri Krishna is that he enacted the pastime of delivering the two sons of Kuvera in the form of twin Arjuna trees, because he was pleased by Sri Narad's devotion to him. Indeed, he enacts all his pastimes because he is pleased with the bhakti of his devotees. This is yet another important meaning of bhakti badham. He is bound by bhakti. Thus ends the English rendition of the Dig Darshini Tika on the second verse. Now, Dig Darshini Vritti. So that was Srila Sanatana Goswami's commentary, and now we are beginning my Srila Gurudev's commentary. Dig Darshini Vritti. On this day, Sri Krishna, the personality who causes the three worlds to tremble merely by the movement of his eyebrows, has become overwhelmed by fear of his mother. Seeing the tiny stick in her hand, he is trembling and stammers, "Mother, look! Do not hit me! I did not break the pot of yogurt." Mother Yashoda is slightly full-figured. As she was running, her braid came undone, and the flowers woven into her hair began falling out. It is as if the flowers were saying, "Mother, you are not alone. We are also with you." Those devotees who make their hearts spotless by endlessly drinking the nectar of devotion to Sri Krishna, imbued with extreme attachment and laced with renunciation of the material world, attain a state of meditating on Sri Krishna deep within their immaculate hearts, which are fully saturated by loving service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Narayan sometimes appears in the meditations of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, and the four Kumaras, the original sages. Still, even in their deepest meditation, they cannot capture him in the form of Rajendra Nandan Sri Krishna. Yet, Mother Yashoda actually bound him, the complete embodiment of all nectarian humors of transcendental love. Unimaginably powerful warriors, despite their greatest valor, posed no threat to Krishna. But Mother Yashoda not only captured him, she brandished a small stick in her hand and threatened him. "Shall I beat you now?" As Kanhaiya rubbed his tear-filled eyes and tried to hide behind his mother, he cried out, "Mother, do not hit me!" He did not look directly at her. He only looked fearfully at the stick in her hand. "You monkey friend," she exclaimed, "Chor, thief!" To this, Sri Krishna replied, "Mother, there is no chor in my dynasty. There is only a chor in your dynasty." And there's a footnote there, or chor. Chor Ghosh Gopa was the name of one of Sri Yashoda's ancestors. Chor literally means thief. Chor Ghosh. So, there is no chor in my dynasty, there is only a chor in your dynasty. "Oh, really?" she retorted. "If you did not steal the butter, then who is feeding the monkeys?" Kanhaiya replied, "He who made the monkeys was feeding them." "Is that so?" she said. "Tell me frankly, who broke this pot?" "Look, mother, when you ran to save the milk, your large ankle bells hit the pot and it broke." "Then how did you get the butter all over your face?" she asked. "Mother, the monkeys were eating the butter, so I was trying to scare them away. As they were running, they smeared butter all over my mouth." Hearing this exchange, all the gopis began to laugh. "I am not about to set you free so easily," Mother Yashoda said. "I am going to tie you up." Mother Yashoda's mood was grave. If I don't chastise him, she thought, he will become quite a troublemaker. With this in mind, she decided to bind him. Although Sri Krishna started to cry, she did not let him go. She thought to herself, "I will keep him tied up for a while, and when I have finished churning the yogurt, I will untie him and feed him butter and breast milk to calm him down." Mother Yashoda considered, Krishna is Kala, a cunning and mischievous thief, and his accomplice is Ulukala, this grinding mortar. Both deserve to be punished. I will tie them together in such a way that Krishna cannot untie himself from the mortar. See, everything's conscious in Vrindavan. Even the mortar. The mortar is guilty. And so he gets punished. The mortar gets a punishment also. Tadhama bhadyamanasya swarbhakasya kritaghasa Dyangulo nama bhutena sandhade nyacha gopika. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-15. When Mother Yashoda tried to bind her mischievous child, the rope was 2 fingers too short, so she tied it to another rope. She had removed the silk ribbon from her braid in order to bind Krishna with it. Other than the gold chain around his waist, Krishna was quite naked. I love when Gurudev would say that. He was quite naked. Although his tiny waist measured no more than 12 fingers, the ribbon could not be made to bind him. It was 2 fingers too short. Mother Yashoda asked her friend for another rope, but that was also too short. Time and again, she gathered and added more rope, but it was always too short, and only 2 fingers too short. Not more, not less. There is an esoteric meaning in this. 1 finger represents the sadhak's endeavors, and the other finger represents the Lord's mercy. Sri Bhagavan becomes controlled by his devotee only when both of these elements are present together. All right, so now we're going to get into some tattva. Why is it only 2 fingers too short? The Ramanuja Sampradaya is divided in two, according to whether they emphasize the Vedic scriptures or the Tamil scriptures. The former are known as the Vadakalai, and the latter is known as Tenkalai. They have distinct opinions regarding the means of ultimate attainment. The view of the Vadakalai Ramanujas is based on grace arising from a cause. Their stance is compared to Markata Nyaya, the analogy of the baby monkey clinging to his mother for protection. When the mother monkey moves about with her baby, she makes no effort to hold him. Instead, the baby clings on to her as she leaps from tree to tree, and if he falls, his mother will never accept him again. My God, that's cruel. Conversely, the view of the Tenkalaya Ramanujas is based on causeless grace. Their stance is compared to Marjara Nyaya, the analogy of a cat carrying the kitten in her mouth. The mother cat picks up her kitten up with her teeth and carries him about. The kitten does not make any effort, goes wherever she takes him. Thus, the followers of the Vadakalai school strive for the grace of Bhagavan by their own efforts, and conversely, the followers of the Tenkalai school rely solely on faith in the causeless grace of Bhagavan, considering their own endeavors ineffective. The Gaudiya Vaishnava school asserts that both views are necessary. The following analogy is given to illustrate this stance. A person who has fallen into a well will cry, "Please help me, please pull me out." Then from above, someone may lower a rope into the well and say, "I'm lowering down a rope, catch hold of it and I'll pull you out." However, if the person in the well does not catch hold of the rope, he will not be freed. From his end, he must hold on to the rope, and from above, he must be pulled out. In this example, the person in the well cries out for help and later firmly catches hold of the rope. These endeavors are the means of his deliverance. In other words, they are his sadhan. From above, the person who is trying to pull him out is bestowing causeless mercy. For someone helplessly fallen in the well of material existence, Śrī Bhagavan's causeless mercy descends, just like this rope. And by performing sadhan, one takes hold of that rope and achieves service to his lotus feet. That's a really awesome example. So Srila Gurudev's mercy is always there. He's holding out the rope to us all the time. The rope is always hanging in front of our face. But we want him to pull us out. And so he says, grab hold on to the rope. And like, I don't really feel like it. And so, no, our sadhan is holding onto the rope. The only way we can actually receive the mercy is we have to also make some endeavor. It goes both ways. Mother Yashoda did not give up in her attempt to bind Krishna. She kept trying. She kept trying. All the gopis began to clap their hands and say, "Oh, mother, the Creator has not written on this boy's forehead that he will be bound. So how can you tie him up?" Mother Yashoda felt ashamed. "This is so embarrassing," she thought. "I have not been able to bind the child that came from my own womb." Taking shelter of Bhagavan Sri Narayan, she silently began to pray. "O Narayan, please help me. If I cannot bind this boy today, it will be so shameful for me. Protect my honor." Her face had become reddish like the rising sun, and drops of perspiration had begun to roll down her face like pearls. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.18 describes this as follows. Samatu svena gatraya visrasta kabarasraja drishtva parishramam Krishna kripaya sitsva bandhane. Shri Krishna saw that his mother's body had become drenched with perspiration. The garlands woven into her braid had fallen out, and she had become utterly exhausted. Seeing his mother's fatigue, little Shri Krishna compassionately allowed himself to be bound. Sadhaks should perform sadhan bhajan with the same unwavering determination and hard endeavor. Then Shri Krishna's heart will melt, and he will be compelled to bestow his sublime devotional service upon them. Indeed, when Krishna saw his mother's firm resolve, his heart melted, and his topmost potency, his mercy, the totality of all his powers combined, then manifested as his bhakta vatsalyata, his affection for his devotees. At that very moment, his Aishwarya Shakti, his potency of supreme majesty, disappeared, and he allowed himself to be bound. Mother Yashoda made an intense endeavor with unflinching resolve. Following her example, Sadhak should try to melt Sri Krishna's heart, and by practicing devotional service that is imbued with characteristics like sincere loving emotions, bhav, great enthusiasm and anxiousness, utkanta, a deep sense of closeness and relationship, sambandha, a feeling of possessiveness, mamata, an intense affection for him, priti. They should compel him to engage them in loving service to him. Following her example, sadhak should try to melt Sri Krishna's heart by practicing devotional service as imbued with characteristics like bhav, utkanta, sambandha, mamata, and priti. They should compel him to engage them in loving service. Regarding the next point. Regarding the previously mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with swamatuhu, an important point must be considered. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in his commentary on this verse. Krishna's waist measures only 12 fingers, and the length of the rope continually increased. Why then could his mother still not bind him? Krishna was thinking, my important daily activities of stealing butter and playing with my friends will be stopped, so my mother should not tie me up. Immediately, his Aishwarya Shakti, which makes the impossible possible, manifested herself within him and proceeded to serve him. Consequently, although the size of his waist remained the same, and although the rope was made so long, his mother could not bind him. The Vraj gopis who were witnessing this pastime along with Mother Yashoda could not understand its mystery. Why was the rope 2 fingers too short? Sri Krishna could not be bound by ordinary rope because all arrangements for his pastimes are made exclusively by his own intrinsic potency, Yoga Maya. Furthermore, there is no outside or inside of Sri Krishna, nor is there any beginning or end of him. He exists eternally in his Sarup, both before the creation of the phenomenal universes and after their total destruction. In the interim, he pervades all the universes, residing within each of their atoms, yet all the while he remains Akila Rasamrita Murti, the original form of condensed transcendental nectar in its totality. In fact, Raso Vaisa, he is nectar. Thus, Sri Krishna, being forever beyond the purview of mundane sense perception, is thoroughly inconceivable. Yet, Mother Yashoda simply regards him as her son. Thinking of him in that way, she behaves with him in such a natural and seemingly ordinary way that her relationship with him may even appear to be like a relationship from this world. But because of that simple, loving relationship, she was actually able to bind Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna can never be bound by someone who has not abandoned all separate interests for selfish enjoyment, which are in opposition with the tendency to please him. He will only become bound by someone who cultivates Uttama Bhakti, which is the inherent function of one's perfected constitutional identity, and which is uninhibited by fruitive acts, mystic yoga, and dry knowledge. Therefore, Sri Bhagavan's power of compassion and mercy, the topmost among all of his potencies, only becomes manifest by the performance of such Uttama Bhakti. In its presence, his Aishwarya Shakti, the power by which he displays his supreme majesty, becomes powerless. When Sri Krishna manifests his mercy potency, he is controlled of his own accord. In their previous lives, Devaki and Vasudeva performed extremely severe penances, but even they could not bind Sri Krishna. And I'll read that footnote after I finish this paragraph. What then can be said of others who tried to bind him? He may willingly come under the control of a sadhak when he sees them eagerly perform loving service to him with great persistence, but he cannot be attracted by austerities alone. He is only attracted by sincere love. So in their previous lives, Devaki and Vasudeva performed extremely severe penances, but even they could not bind Sri Krishna. Although Sri Krishna awarded them their desired benediction by becoming their son, he performed all of his sweet childhood pastimes in Vraj, away from their vision. When he returned to them in his later pastimes, his identity as a Supreme Lord was revealed. Okay. What then can be said of others who try to bind him? He may willingly come under the control of a sadhak when he sees them, eagerly perform loving service to him with great persistence, but he cannot be attracted by austerities alone. He is only attracted by sincere love. Before the advent of Śrī Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bhakti was evident within the world, but not bhakti ras. Bhakti was evident in the world, but not bhakti ras. Śrī Rupa Goswami fulfilled the inner desire of Śrīman Mahaprabhu. Within the sacred text he compiled, especially Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Śrī Ujjvala Nilamani, he perfectly delineated the meaning of bhakti ras, describing all of its divisions and subdivisions in full detail. Śrīman Mahaprabhu has propagated bhakti ras throughout his most confidential associates. Śrī Dāmodar, Śrī Rai Ramananda, Śrī Rupa Goswami, Śrī Sanatan Goswami, Śrī Raghunath Das Goswami, Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my own Śrīla Gurudev, Śrīla Bhakti Bhagwan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and others. Mother Yashoda wound the rope around Krishna's belly, tied him to the grinding mortar, and then went to churn the yogurt, her mind remaining on her son all the while. Just then, Dham, Sridham, Sudam, Madhumangal, and Krishna's other sakas arrived. Mother Rohini also returned to Nanda Bhavan from the house of Upananda, along with her son Śrī Baladev Prabhu, who had then entered the group of sakas. When he saw that his little brother was tied up and that he was crying, he became furious. Tears mixed with black cosmetic ointment were streaming from Krishna's eyes. On one side, where the ointment had totally washed away, it looked like the clear river Ganga. And on the other, where his tears were dark from mixing with the ointment, it looked like the blackish Yamuna. Thus, the two rivers were cascading on his chest. Enraged, Baladev asked Kanaya and the sakas, "Who bound him?" Baladev Prabhu thought, "Whoever has bound my Kanaya, I will punish this very day." Then Madhumangal whispered into Baladev's ear, "It was Mother Yashoda who bound Krishna." As soon as he heard Mother Yashoda's name, he became silent. After a few moments, he tried to open the knot. However, he was unable to tie Mother Yashoda's strong knot. This because the love of devotees and Vatsalya Ras, parental love, is superior to the love of devotees and Sakya Ras, friendship. Incidentally, had Baladev Prabhu been situated in his form as a Nangamanjari, wherein he's devoted to Krishna in the highest ras, Madhura Ras, conjugal love, he could have untied that knot. But although all the sakas kept working together to untie Krishna, they were not successful. Shri Krishna gradually stopped crying. Even he was unable to set himself free. "Come on," the sakas told him. Wrong intonation. "Come on," the sakas told him. "We will tip over the grinding mortar and drag it out of the courtyard and play." At that moment, he remembered the incident that occurred long ago between the two sons of Kuvera and his dear devotee, and he thought, "Devarshir me priyatamo yadimo dhanadatmajo tattata sadhiyashyami yargitam tan mahatmana." Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10-25. Devarshi Narad is my most dear devotee. Therefore, even though these two brothers, the son of the most wealthy demigod Kuvera, had no devotion for me, still I must fulfill Sri Narad's words by appearing directly before them and granting them devotional service to me. That's the mercy of a pure devotee like Sri Narad. Even though they didn't have any devotion for him, still, because of Narad. Kuvera was the dear friend of Devarshi Narad, and his two sons were Nala Kuver and Mani Griva. One day, while they were bathing in the Mandakini, the celestial Ganga, with heavenly damsels, their intoxication from being wealthy, beautifully figured, youthful, and of noble birth became further inflamed by drinking wine. At that time, Devarshi Narad passed by. When the ladies saw that he had come, they hurried out of the water, dressed themselves, and offered him obeisances. But Nala Kuvar and Mani Griv, blinded by arrogance, did not offer obeisances. In fact, they stood there naked and mused. Where has this person come from? Ignoring that ignoring the great sage, they shamelessly proceeded to call for the heavenly damsels to return. Where has this person come from? When Śrī Narad beheld the degraded behavior of Nalakuvar and Manigriv, he was overwhelmed with compassion for them. Outwardly, he feigned anger and shouted a curse. Your behavior befits that of trees. So be it. Become trees. Upon hearing the curse uttered by Devarshi Narad, they were filled with fear. Falling at his feet and weeping, they begged him for pardon. How can we be delivered? They asked. Śrī Narad replied, both of you will become twin Arjuna trees near the house of Nanda Maharaj in Gokul. At the end of Dwapar Yuga, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna will deliver you in the course of enacting his childhood pastimes. See, that's the compassion of a pure devotee. With a pure devotee, even if somebody acts completely, in a completely inappropriate way, is like yelling at them, standing completely naked in front of a pure devotee, yelling at him, like, what are you doing here? The pure devotee doesn't become angry. He actually is filled with compassion. And just from that, Narad gave them the benediction for Krishna to personally deliver him in his childhood pastimes. That's the mercy of a pure devotee. When Sri Krishna remembered his devotee's curse, he was overwhelmed with compassion for the two sons of Kuber. Just to deliver them, he dragged the heavy grinding mortar toward the extremely large Arjuna trees with all of his friends. And then there's a footnote here. Ancient Arjuna trees grow extremely large. According to Śrī Narad's curse, Nalakuvar and Manigriv remained in the form of Arjuna trees for 100 celestial years, or about 15 million earth years. Wow, 15 million years. The trees were fused at their base, but somehow Shri Krishna passed between them. The grinding mortar, however, became lodged between the trees. As soon as Shri Krishna tugged at the grinding mortar with some force, the two trees were completely uprooted. At once they began falling over and finally struck the ground, producing a deafening crash. Then, from within the ancient trees, two divine personalities emerged. They circumambulated Shri Krishna and submitted prayers in glorification of him. After they begged to be forgiven for their offense, Shri Krishna explained, "It is the unfailing result of seeing Śrī Narad that even such rogues as the two of you are able to see me face to face. And the sum total of all the sins you have committed in your countless births has fled far away from you. May you attain Bhav Bhakti for me." By Shri Krishna's causeless mercy, they resided in Goloka Vrindavan from that point onward. They became the famous reciters Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta. Thus, as Shri Krishna's special associates, they eternally narrate his unlimited pastimes in the assemblies of Sri Nanda Baba or the Gopis. And at the end of this book, it's so beautiful. From Gopal Champu, we'll hear Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta tell this very pastime, and the way they tell it is just so beautiful. Okay, so thus, as Shri Krishna's special associates, they eternally narrate. Okay, that which cannot be obtained even after accumulating pious credit, sukriti, for millions of lifetimes, can be achieved very quickly by the causeless mercy of Shri Guru, Vaishnavas, and Shri Hari. The devotees who are expert in relishing the loving moods of the Vraj Gopis are the treasure house of Lobhamay Bhakti, devotion to Shri Krishna that is full of intense longing. Among them, some exemplify one's own cherished mood and are affectionate towards oneself, Sajatya Snigdha. If one gets their association, then he should realize that they are the most dear friends of his soul. With his life and soul, he should serve them and endeavor to purchase their mood. Wow, this is so beautiful. That which cannot be obtained even after accumulating pious credit, sukriti, for millions of lifetimes can be achieved very quickly by the causeless mercy of Shri Guru, Vaishnavas, and Shri Hari. The devotees who are expert in relishing the loving moods of the Vraj Gopis are the treasure house of Lobhamaya Bhakti. Devotion to Shri Krishna is full of intense longing. Among them, some exemplify one's own desired mood and are affectionate towards oneself. If one gets their association, then he should realize that they are the most dear friends of his soul. With his life and soul, he should serve them and endeavor to purchase their mood. But how can such moods be attained? When a person hankers for the same relationship, the sambandha, that these great Rasik devotees have with their Swamini, Shri Radha, and with their companions, and with her companions, and when he hankers to have that same deep possessiveness, that same mamata for her, and the same intense inclination to serve her, the same seva vasana, then he can attain these moods. Only then can one truly serve such rasika personalities. And then one's life is successful. There is no other way. So it's only by hankering. That's how these moods can be attained, is when a person hankers for the same relationship that these devotees have with Shri Radha, with her companions, and hankers to have the same deep possessiveness for her. That's why we're singing this, every morning we're singing this Gandharva Sampratanashtakam. This is a prayer completely filled with all these longings. Especially in the month of Kartik, this is the month that we pray to Shrimati Radhika, right? This is her month, and this is when she's most merciful. This is when we have the biggest opportunity to get to imbibe these moods. Only then can one truly serve such rasik personalities, and then one's life, and then is one's life successful. Yeah, there is 1 second. This just reminded me something. Kriti Ratna. I'm just looking for that book. This seems to be an answer to one of a question that was raised. Let me just find it really quick. It'll take me 1 second. Oops, I went too far. Sorry. Okay, so this is Srila Bhakti Bhagavan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, my Param Gurudev. He said, while assuming a proclivity to enjoy, whatever efforts we exhibit to serve are rooted in a desire for sense gratification. And if we try to check those tendencies, a sense of detachment sprouts that is mundane. This does not slightly constitute actual service. During Srila Prabhupada's time, we had the opportunity to witness the fact that one cannot satisfy Gurudev's heart even by laboring tirelessly day and night with simple-hearted intent. Only someone who understands the difference between Sri Gurudev's internal instructions and his external instructions are his worldly guidance, and acts accordingly can attain true auspiciousness. So see, even trying to satisfy Gurudev's heart by laboring tirelessly day and night with simple-hearted intent, that is not enough. But we actually, it takes more. We have to, when a person hankers for the same relationship that there's Gurudev's internal instructions. His internal, he gives instructions, many instructions, but we have to really understand what's the deep import of those instructions. What is the essence? We have to understand his heart and then serve him. Then we can please him. But just by being sincere, that's not enough. And working really hard, giving your life and soul, and but no, we have to do more than that even. Only then can one truly serve such rasik personalities. That's the only time when we're able to serve him, when we're hankering for these deep moods that he has with. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Okay, 3 dots. Nanda Baba came running after he heard the deafening crash made by the massive Arjun. After he heard the deafening crash made when the massive Arjun trees fell. He saw Kanhaiya, still tied up, standing between the fallen trees. Nanda Baba was shaken to see Krishna standing so close to the fallen trees and thought, "Today, Sri Narayan has given us so much protection. What would have happened if Kanhaiya had been underneath these trees when they fell?" Mother Yashoda also came running. When she saw the horrible scene, she entered into shock. Aghast, she thought, "Alas, what has happened?" Nanda Baba asked the children, "How did this happen?" In their broken language, the children explained, "Baba, as soon as Kanhaiya pulled the grinding mortar against the two trees, they fell over and two very beautiful people came out. They looked like demigods. They folded their hands and offered prayers to Kanhaiya. Then they circumambulated him and went north." But Nanda Baba was not convinced. He took Krishna on his lap. Krishna had been keeping silent till now, but as soon as he sat on his father's lap, he burst into tears and began to wail. When Nanda Baba and the cowherd boys saw Krishna crying, tears also started streaming down. When Nanda Baba and the cowherd boys saw Krishna crying, tears also started streaming from their own eyes. Nanda Baba pacified his darling son and untied the knot. The knot that bound Krishna was factually made of Vatsalya Ras, not rope. Consequently, only his associates in Vatsalya Ras, or Madhur Ras, conjugal love, had the power to untie such a knot. Krishna's friends in Sakya Ras and his servants in Dasya Ras are those situated in a passive or neutral relationship with him, in Shanta Ras, could not have untied the knot tied by Mother Yashoda. Even within Vatsalya Ras, there is a gradation. The love of Mother Yashoda, who actually bound Krishna, is superior to the love of Nanda Baba, who released him. When Mother Yashoda saw what had happened to her Kanhaiya, she could not move. She simply stood there like a statue. She could not even cry. Nanda Baba made Kanhaiya a little peaceful, and then gave him a sweet laddu from his cloth bag. "Kanhaiya," he asked, "tell me, who tied you up?" "Mother," Kanhaiya replied. Becoming silent, Nanda Baba then resolved to punish Mother Yashoda with the greatest punishment a loved one can give. For the entire remainder of the day, Nanda Baba did not speak a single word to her. In a grave mood, he took Krishna and Balaram in his arms and went to bathe in Brahmanda Ghat. After everyone had bathed, he returned with them to the Goshala, the grand shelter for the cows. Meanwhile, Mother Yashoda had become as dry and lifeless as a piece of dry wood. In the Goshala, Nanda Baba filled Krishna's and Balaram's bellies by giving them rock candy and squirting mouth into their mouths directly from the cows' udders. When they came home, Mother Rohini served them the food that she had prepared, and Nanda Baba silently fed the children. After they had finished, he took some himself. Then they returned to the Goshala. In the evening, Upananda's wife came to Nanda Baba along with Mother Rohini and the other older ladies of Braj. Mother Rohini told Balaram, "Go now and bring Krishna." That day, however, Krishna had given Balaram such a push that he fell quite far backward. Finally, Upananda's wife and Mother Rohini spoke to Kanhaiya. "Look, Kanhaiya," they said, "your mother is crying so much. Go to her." "No, I will not go," he answered. "Then come to me," Rohini said. But Kanhaiya answered strongly, "No, I won't go near you. When mother was tying me up, I called to you so loudly, but you did not come. I won't even go near you." "With whom will you eat?" asked Mother Rohini. "With father," he answered. "With whom will you play?" she asked. "With Daubhaya, my big brother Balaram." "But with whom will you sleep?" "With father." Rohini said, "Until now, you have always slept next to your mother, but today you will sleep by your father? Your mother is crying for you." Then Nanda Baba said, "Should I beat your mother?" Upon hearing these words, Kanhaiya stopped his father's raised hand and answer. Then Rohini said, "And And if mother suddenly dies, then? As soon as Krishna heard this, he burst into loud sobs and ran into Mother Rohini's lap. She brought him to Mother Yashoda, and when she placed him on Mother Yashoda's lap, Yashoda began to weep loudly. Shri Krishna also cried. Nanda Baba's heart melted, and he began to cry. Rohini and all the other residents of Braj who were gathered there also began to cry. Weeping filled the entire atmosphere. Finally, the respected elders of Braj pacified everyone. That night, when it was time for dinner, Nanda Baba told Kanaya, "Go and bring your mother to me." Shri Krishna immediately went and caught hold of his mother's veil, and although she hesitated to go, Krishna brought her to Nanda Baba. She served dinner to everyone, and they all took their meal with great joy. Thereafter, Mother Yashoda took Shri Krishna up in her arms and went into her bedroom. Thus ends the Digdarshini Vritti of the second verse. Wow, that was... Man, this Dāmodarāṣṭakam is just the most beautiful thing. Beautiful. I think it's my favorite book. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. We can end with a little kirtan. One second. What should we sing? Let's sing a little. One second. Oh, my screen is. I'm just going to open up. I think maybe every day after we finish, we can sing a little Nam Kirtan and then Mahamantra. So I'm just opening up the songbook. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay. Let's sing this one today. Krishna Govinda Hare Gopi Vallabha Shore Srinivasa Damadara Shri Rama Murare Nanda Nandan Madhava Darshinga Kangsare. Okay, 1 second. Krishna Govinda Hare Gopi Vallabha Shore 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 Srinivasa Damodarāṣṭakam Rama Murare Srinivasa Damodarāṣṭakam Rama Murare Nanda Nandan Madhava Nanda Nandan Madhava Nishinga Kangsare Nanda Nandan Madhava Nishinga Kangsare Krishna Govinda Hare Gopi Vallabha Shore Krishna Govinda Hare Gopi Vallabha Shore Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Prabhupada Jai Jai, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudeva ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Mahabhagavat Shila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitilapa Vishwa Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashagunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal, Gaura Mandal, Vraja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Vraja Mandal Parikrama ki jai. Shri Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Abhina Vrindavan Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gana ki jai. Swaparshad Shri Gaur Hari ki jai. Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam ki jai. Shri Satyavrata Muni ki jai. Shri Krishna Dvaipayan Veda Vyasdev ki jai. Shri Sanatan Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai. Shri Param Gurudev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Radha Damodar Ju ki jai. Shri Damodar Vrat ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrat Urja Vrat ki jai. Urjeshwari Srimati Radharani ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrat Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsidevai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams. So, yeah, remember yesterday I mentioned that I wasn't going to read today and I was going to read tomorrow. Well, the plan, I ended up reading today instead because we moved, my friends, we moved our reading group over to Wednesday instead of Tuesday. So I won't be reading tomorrow. I'll read the day after tomorrow. We'll read chapter 3. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Can't see any comments right now. Anyhow, I'll look at the comments after and respond after I finish this video. Okay, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Radhe.